Hello, hello. Welcome back. Took a couple weeks off. I was freezing up in the Italian Dolomite Mountains snowboarding. Getting better at snowboarding because I kind of suck. This was the first time I was able to do a black diamond. But anyways, that's not why you're here. You're here because of this thing that we're looking at, all these charts and graphs. So this is an update on the progress of the automated trading system that I'm building, and where we left off last time. If you want to go check out those videos, I was having a bit of a existential crisis in terms of do we go after this noisy signal here that you see in the background of what I'm hovering over? That is the actual closing price, and it is noisy because it bounces around all over the place. And then you have this nice chill, took a Xanax, kind of more relaxed, exponentially smoothed line in the that's represented by this blue color. Now that you could think of as a moving average. In my case, it is exponential smoothing, but you could think of it as a moving average for all intents and purposes. Okay, so the question that we left off last time was, there seems like there's all this potential that I'm missing out if I'm only making decisions based on the smoothed out line. There's some trade-offs here. Now, I will sacrifice my ability to capture some of these gains that we see in these spikes downward or certain spikes upward, but what you get as the benefit here is that finding a true local minimum is a bit easier. Now, I say true because there are situations where if you're looking at some of these spikes in terms of the actual price, this smoothed out curve isn't going to be fooled. It's not going to say we're at a local minimum yet. It's going to keep sliding on downwards until the price, maybe like around here or here, until that kind of longer, slower oscillating trend says, oh yeah, we are kind of at a relative minimum. If you're making decisions based on the actual price, you might get tricked here. You might say, we're at a local minimum, and you buy, and then maybe this little spike upwards, maybe the trading logic you have isn't good enough to detect that this is a good point to sell, or maybe it's just not even profitable enough. Here we're talking about, what is this scale? We see here $148.5 up to 152, 153. I think that's technically profitable, but I mean, you're really rolling the dice there, squeezing 2% out of that. Whereas if maybe, you wait for this thing to bottom out, you might, this doesn't look too much better, but you might buy here. And then in this case, you hopefully sell here or here. But in some of these other situations, if you buy this dip, look at all the potential profit you have. So in general, let's just say in general, and of course you're going to have your edge cases, but in general, it seems like it's safer, and you're going to have less problems with entering bad positions if you sacrifice the gains of being able to execute trades on the actual price, and you opt in to kind of follow the advice of the slower oscillating, exponentially smooth trend. Now, this is the lesson that I've learned. Let's talk about what else we're looking at here, because when we left off about 2 weeks ago, I wanted to explore labeling data sets that are based on the actual trend, the actual price, to see if I'm smart enough, if I'm clever enough to pick up on good places to enter the market just based off of that. That would be my prefer. If I was that smart, if I was that cool, I would want to be making decisions on the actual price, because one of the drawbacks of this smoothed out price is that in order for me to know we're at a local minimum, you can see that the actual price has already started to go up. So I'm never going to be able to get this guy down here. Typically, I'm going to be buying in at a local minimum according to the smoothed out price, which in my case means that I am N plus 2 units in time away from where that local minimum actually occurred. Because, you don't know you're at a local minimum. You don't know that you were at a local minimum until you've already gone up in price from that dip. So, that's the conundrum. Now let's just take a look at this. What is this down here? We used to have a bunch of just ones and zeros, kind of like what you see here, except there would be some zeros down here as well. So I used to be making a kind of decision yes or no that would just be 1 or 0, and I changed that. It's still the same model. Like it's still, you could think of it as like logistic regression, or in this case, binary classification. I'm using XGBoost to do the classification. But now I'm using the predicting a probability instead of just the 0 or the 1. I prefer this because then I can kind of eyeball some of this territory where, maybe in my case, instead of making the cutoff at 0.5, typically you would have this decision boundary where the probabilities, anything above 50% would be a yes, anything below would be a no, or anything greater than or equal to 50%, I guess I should say, because 50% doesn't just get left there hanging. Anyways, nerd moment. I'm kind of leaning towards allowing anything that's 40% or higher. In general, it seemed like a good thing for me to do. I don't want to go below 40%, even though some of these actually look like juicy dips to buy. What I'm finding is the model has found that even though in a lot of these cases it looks like these are pretty good places to buy, this red zone, we could call it, is dangerous territory. A lot of times, after the fact, we can see this is a good place to buy, but what's happening is the model is picked up on that a lot of times at these points, like there are characteristics of the price at this point in time that we don't know this thing's going to shoot up. You only have information. The model only knows about what's happened previously, and so what we see, these red indications are kind of these. There's the potential cliff here. Like this thing isn't necessarily going to bounce up. A lot of times when the price is behaving as it is at this point, it just keeps going downward. So these red ones, even though in hindsight, looking at this training, in this case, this isn't training data. This is data that no model was trained on, and it's making predictions. But these red areas, I don't want to just say, oh, let's not make any kind of decision at all. Let's just allow any local minimum to be a purchase point. I don't want to do that because a lot of times these types of points end up being a false bottom, and it keeps going down. So anyways, we do want to keep this, some decision boundary here. And in my case, I'm finding, 40% probability or greater is pretty good. Even though sometimes these really, like when the model is really, really happy about buying in, I'm not too happy about this. I guess it's learned a lot of times when it's flattened out. In the data labeling process, I must have a lot of points where the price kind of flattens out and then it shoots up. And I look at that with my human brain, my greedy human brain, and I say, yes, let's mark that as a point we would want to buy. Might have to reevaluate that, maybe go back into the data and kind of say, into the labels and identify points like this and say, let's get rid of them. Because I've seen this in a couple different trading symbols where it's kind of at the very top and it flattens out for a bit, and then the model says, yep, let's buy into that, and then it just goes down. Like this would choke up our trading system because we would have a slot occupied here where it bought in and it doesn't have an opportunity to sell for a long time. Okay, so this is looking pretty decent for Litecoin. Now let's just go over here and see, how were things looking when I was trying to train up a model that would buy on the actual price. And this is where things like this, you can see all these dots that kind of align vertically. This is something, I call this like a valley of death. Let's make sure we don't get that one little orange dot that's not part of the valley of death in there. So why do I call this a valley of death? In this kind of trading system I'm building, each symbol and time frame is only going to have a few trades that it could have open at any given time. It's a safety net for me, because if I just have a pool of money, a limited pool of money, let's call it like $500, and I just let, any time that we encounter something that the model predicts, yes, let's buy. If I don't have a constraint there, if I don't have a limit that's saying, hey, you can only have 3 trades open at any given time, then something like this could happen where we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a little bit more than 10 of these points where maybe the model would say, yeah, let's buy in. But really it's buying in on the same movement. And if that movement happens to be bad, then I'm just stuck with all this money on the line, and we don't know if that price is going to shoot up again anytime soon. So the slots are there to protect me from my own idiocy in a model that I built running away on me. So what's going to happen is if I have 3 slots, let's say that, this model acting on the real price, it sees what it thinks at the time is a juicy dip, right? You look back in history, you say, oh, it dips a little bit, then it shoots back up. Dips a little bit, it goes back up. Here, it's seeing that, oh, this is potentially a really juicy dip, but what it's not smart enough to do, it doesn't have enough safety rails built into it, and I'm not smart enough at this point in time to help it see, to build features that helps it see that this is not actually a good place to buy in. This is a false bottom. It's going to keep dropping, and even if we buy in here, you potentially, if you don't sell this micro spike up, then you're stuck potentially with this for, God forbid you don't sell at any of these points. Oh, now the price is way down here. Now, you're less susceptible to this problem if you're making decisions based on the smoothed out trend, because we can see, the smoothed out thing it's not going in guns blazing. It's going to allow this little dip here to pass without taking any action on it because it's not a local minimum yet. It's the smoothed out price isn't going to get interested in this until, somewhere around here. And I think if you buy in right here, you still have plenty of opportunity to sell here. But if you're making decisions on the actual price and you bought in here, oh, you just got no opportunity to sell ever. You're just in this marriage. You put a ring on it way too early up here. And we can see that this model is saying that's an attractive place to buy. Not only is it an attractive place to buy, it's the most attractive place to buy according to the probabilities. So I don't like this valley of death thing that I see popping up all too often. I want to avoid it. So I think for now, until I, gain some brain matter and I can figure out how to make a model that's a bit smarter than what I'm able to do right now, until I can engineer better features that inform this actual trend on when is a good place to enter the market, I'm going to stick to this. Making decisions on the smoothed out price, the slower moving trend. And let's just close this out with taking a look at where this thing would sell. So if we were to, let's say, buy in at this point, where this is data that this model was not trained on. This is just querying the Gemini Exchange API and taking that data, putting it through all of the pipelines to apply all of the features to where we can score this data using a model that we've built previously. And this model is saying this is a point, if the model had been running during this time window, we would have recommended purchasing here. So, okay, let's say we buy in here. Down below this sell 1 hour thing, this is literally just a local maxima as according to this smoothed out blue line. And so my plan for now in this first iteration is to just say, okay, we bought in. Now, anytime we encounter a local maximum, we are going to evaluate how much has the price gone up. And or maybe it didn't go up. Maybe we bought in at a bad place and the price percentage of where we're at now is negative compared to where we were when we bought in. In any case, I'm just going to have a rule that says if the threshold, we're at a local maximum now, has the price increased X percentage, some threshold. If it has, then we're going to sell. If it hasn't, we're not going to sell. We're going to keep waiting. So let's see. We bought in here. This is at 146.88. And then we see, okay, has the price gone up enough? And let's say it does, 151.38. Maybe that's not even profitable. Well, then we would wait until the next local maximum over here. You can see that is a little, a nice little maximum here on that smoothed out curve. And at this point, that's for sure profitable. It's still not the juiciest thing ever, but 152.85, we've got somewhere between 2 and 3% profitability. Nice. Okay, so we sell. Then we buy in again. And we buy in over here, and we can just see that then, where's the next local maximum? It's right here. That's probably not enough to meet the threshold of profitability, so then it's going to wait until the price is here. This is definitely in that threshold of profitability, so it's going to sell. And you could just keep repeating that cycle. Again, even though this little dot is red, I have that colored based on 0.5 being a probability cutoff, but that's not actually the case. My cutoff is 40%, so we would actually buy in here. We can see that's a nice little dip, even though once again shed a tear for the actual price trends and the gains that we're not going to realize. But whatever, we buy in at this dip according to the smoothed out curve, and then again we don't really sell until we hit some local maximum that's profitable. And these don't look like local maxima, but that smoothed out price is still having little bumps and inflection points along the way, and so we can see I'd probably end up selling right around here. Unfortunate that we don't wait around for this, a little more spike up, but something you just have to keep in mind is you got to take the gains that appear to you, because there's no guarantee at this point that this price is going to keep going up. For all we know, this thing would have gone down, and then if you're holding out for some future that's not going to happen, that's no good. So we can't really cry over spilt milk here. You can't be looking with hindsight at all of these trends. The thing we want here is that we buy in at a point that then becomes profitable. We can't really sit here and be a Monday morning quarterback about, oh, if only you hadn't sold here and you'd sold here instead. Just does us no good. Okay, so if we had done that, then let's just do one more of these. We buy in here. Too bad. That sucks. That's a terrible place to buy in, because now there's not, we don't even see on the map here a place where we could sell again. So I think I've got to do some maybe combing through the data labeling and saying, why is it that the model seems to really like these areas to buy in where the price is up near, almost at the peak, a very high local peak. I want to get rid of those and figure out how, we could just keep it to, like, let's say we buy in at this point, it seems like it's going to have an opportunity to sell again before the price dips way down. Okay, so yeah, lessons learned here. I'm not smart enough yet to do to make predictions on the actual time trend. So I'm going to stick with the smoothed out, the exponentially smoothed line. And I think we've already got a pretty solid, way of turning around and selling. And then once we have that in production, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to add a column into, anytime I close a trade, I'm going to be writing to a BigQuery table so I can track the profitability of these trades. And I'm also going to indicate there which model is being used, so that I can kind of maybe even, partition a couple different pools of money to be available to different models. And then we can kind of have like 3 different iterations running in parallel and see, which thing is actually the most productive, and then learn from that and kind of zoom in, triangulate the model that's the best one to have in production. So I'm probably going to be doing that in the next week. I'm going to be trying to get this buy first, sell second model installed into a machine in the cloud so it can just run 24/7, and then we'll see where that takes us. It's entirely possible if we get enough of these, then the whole model might get choked up, sitting there just holding the baton, holding the torch for a toxic relationship where it buys in and it can't sell again. But it seems like that, like more often than not, buying in does have an attractive sell point. So we'll see, and maybe see you in future videos. That is all I had for today's update. So see you around.